Previous lesson, why too much money creates waste. Business A, Business B, and Business C all had enough money to operate and grow. But they used their money differently. Business A spent because the money was available. Business B spent carefully and asked whether the money was actually needed. Business C gave every shilling a purpose, investing strategically, maintaining reserves, and focusing on long-term value. The lesson was simple: having money gives a business options, but knowing where to put that money gives the business strength. Finding the right funding level. Business A, Business B, and Business C were discussing another important question: how much funding does a business actually need? They realized that the goal is not simply to get as much money as possible. A business needs enough funding to operate, handle unexpected challenges, and pursue worthwhile opportunities. But too little or too much funding can create different problems. The first difference is the amount of funding each business has. Business A has too little funding. The business may have good ideas and opportunities, but limited money prevents it from acting on them. Business B has a funding level that matches its needs. It has enough money to operate, maintain a reserve, and pursue opportunities without putting unnecessary pressure on the business. Business C has more funding than it currently needs. At first, this may look like the strongest position. But having excess money can create a different challenge. The business may start looking for ways to spend the money simply because it is available. Now look at their operations. Business A struggles to cover important operating costs. The business may delay purchases, reduce necessary spending, or struggle to maintain normal operations. Business B has enough funding to cover its regular operating needs. The business can pay its essential expenses while keeping its finances under control. Business C has more money available than its current operations require. This gives the business flexibility, but it also creates the responsibility of making sure the excess money is used wisely. The businesses also approach growth differently. Business A may see a good opportunity but be unable to take advantage of it because there is not enough funding. Business B evaluates the opportunity first. If the expected benefits justify the investment, the business uses its available funding to support growth. Business C has enough money to pursue many opportunities. But because funding is readily available, the business must be careful not to confuse having money with having a good reason to expand. Their spending habits are also different. Business A is forced to control spending because money is limited. Sometimes this is necessary, but sometimes the business may cut costs that are actually important. Business B spends according to clear priorities. It asks what the business needs and what spending will create value. Business C has greater freedom to spend. But without discipline, that freedom can lead to unnecessary expenses. Cash reserves create another difference. Business A keeps very little reserve because most of its money is needed for immediate operations. This leaves the business vulnerable when unexpected expenses appear. Business B maintains a reasonable reserve. It keeps enough money available to handle unexpected problems without unnecessarily locking away too much cash. Business C may have a large amount of unused cash. While this provides protection, the business should also consider whether some of that money could be put to better use. The funding level also affects decision-making. Business A often makes decisions under financial pressure. The question becomes: can we afford this? Business B has more flexibility. It can ask, do we need this, and will it create value? Business C must be careful not to become careless simply because it can afford more. Its question should be, is this the best use of our available funding? Over time, these differences can produce very different outcomes. Business A may struggle to grow because it does not have enough financial capacity. Business B can maintain a balance between operations, protection, and growth. Business C can become stronger if it manages its excess funding carefully, but it can also waste resources if the money encourages unnecessary spending. The lesson is simple. A business does not necessarily need the most funding possible. It needs the right level of funding for its current needs, risks, and opportunities. Too little funding can restrict a business. Too much unmanaged funding can encourage waste. The right funding level gives a business room to operate, protection against problems, and enough capacity to grow with discipline. Final takeaway. Business A, Business B, and Business C show us that the goal is not to have the most money, but to have the right amount of funding for the business's needs. Too little funding can limit operations and growth. Too much funding can encourage unnecessary spending and poor decisions. The right funding level gives a business enough resources to operate, enough protection to handle challenges, and enough capacity to grow without losing financial discipline. What happens when theory meets real business? Business A, Business B, and Business C have already explored three important questions: why too little money can kill a business, why too much money can create waste, how to find the right funding level. But there is still one important question: what does this actually look like in the real world? In the next discussion, Business A, Business B, and Business C will move beyond theory and examine real-world examples of businesses that faced funding challenges. Some had too little money. Some had more money than they could manage effectively. And others found a balance that helped them survive, operate, and grow. The numbers may be different, but the lessons are surprisingly similar. The next lesson, real-world examples. Follow and subscribe to PeenzTechnologies and stay tuned for the discussion.